We're in Miami's design district. This is so cool. 2 professional wrestlers are having their own showcase. It's called Sunset Flip, and it's amazing the artwork that they have contributed to this show. Just awesome. And I got both pro wrestlers are here. We're going to talk about that and something else. And you could see some of the artwork here. And we're going to get into all that. And then we got some artwork over here as well. And now, who are those pro wrestlers? Well, let me tell you, they're champions. Ring of Honor, pure champion, Lee Moriarty, and the AEW Women's Champion, Thekla.
What's up?
So this is, now we'll start with this. This is one of Lee's pieces. Lee, come on, tell us about the piece and what inspired you for this.
Yeah, so I call this one Baseliner, and this one's inspired by one of my favorite hobbies to do outside of professional wrestling and painting, and that's playing tennis. And a big thing that draws me to tennis is the colors that you see on the courts and the fields and the outfits. So that's why this one's so vibrant and bright, like a lot of my other work that is including tennis players.
And I also want you to talk about the lucha style and the creation. But all of your artwork really is lucha based with the masks.
So me being a professional wrestler, a lot of my work is reflection of me outside the ring as well, but I never leave professional wrestling fully. So that's why you have these luchadors, and I also think luchadors are a universal representation of professional wrestling. So anybody that sees a luchador, you understand that's pro wrestling, versus if it was a guy without a mask, you might just think it's a superhero in tights.
And now we're making our way, as you can see, some of the classier look of the luchador. Lee, it's just so precise though, it's really cool. And then we go to the toxic spider. And you could see all the aggression and the anger and the passion.
The chaos.
Chaos. Chaos is their middle name. Techla, tell us, come over here and tell us about this piece. This is really cool too.
That's one of my newest pieces actually. That I made this one when I was still living in Japan. It's called The Cage. You can see the influence. This here in the back is supposed to be a cage. While most of my work is actually about, you know, the joys and pains of being a pro wrestler, some of the stuff is also about, you know, working out and being in the fight game, mostly from the viewpoint of a female fighter. So this is also a little bit about the cage, as in the UFC cage, you know, fighting. Although I depicted something that shows actually a pro wrestling move. And some more pro wrestling moves down here. It's all inspired by a manga book from the 90s that I was gifted in Japan. And I took images from that book and made it all into something new and chaotic. It's playing around with colors and you know, it's movement and rapid.
Both of you are into the color schemes. I see all the coloring on both of your paintings. And this is a little more artsy, but still, I see the teeth right here. So whether you're hockey or pro wrestler, losing the teeth.
Exactly,
What do you, tell us a little bit about this one.
That one's a little, that's a little older. That's from my second solo exhibition I had in Japan. The teeth, that was one of the, actually like most used symbols during that time for me, because the tooth was kind of a representative of the sacrifices we have to make in this game. You know, it's a lot of physical and also personal and emotional sacrifice that goes into being a part of the fight game and being a professional wrestler. And that one is called, I think, Cowboys and Divas. It's about like the history of combat sport in general. You see it, it's like, it's a little bit based on like a Roman Greco depictions of men fighting.
Greco-Roman.
Yes.
Greco-Roman wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I changed it all up. I made these main characters females, which isn't very common in the Greco-Roman style. And then I made all the guys, they're like cowboys who are having like bar fights and smoking cigarettes. And I'm just having fun with it, you know?
The Old West. Thekla must be an old Western movie fan. We're learning new things.
That's right.
Well, your Japanese influence,
Yes.
of course, shows. And I mean, whether it was Stardom or just wrestling other places in Japan, What was that like for you, and then incorporating the Japanese style into your paintings?
So Japanese wrestling style is extremely physical. It's they call a lot of it is strong style, which means it's very physical. It's very hard hitting, and it's the base is actually in like real sports. You know, saying that it's not about the show character so much as it is about like real hard hitting men and women. So while drawing these paintings, I was usually hurting and thinking about, you know, as I said before, the sacrifices you have to leave in the ring. And this is a depiction of, like, you know, training, and you got the nutrition banana in the corner. It's everything. This painting is more about preparing for being in the ring, while other pieces are more about being in the ring or recovering from being in the ring. So this is more like this the chessboard, and it's all like it's planning how to get in real shape. It's, if I was to break down everything that's happening in the painting, you'd be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense actually, you know. So nutrition here, working out here, and those are like the thought bubbles, and this is all actually like hands moving and locking up, you know, and actually preparing for how to start a fight. So my paintings are usually full of little clues and stuff. Especially this one is, if you look at all of this here, you know, this is probably the most personal any of my paintings ever get. And this is called After Hours. This is like a silhouette of me, kind of like this is a self-portrait.
Putting everything in, the 110% that you put in
exactly. This is
afterwards.
Like afterwards, and you go over like thinking about how the match was, how certain things made you feel and moved you, and you know, everything from winning to losing, and the fans is something that comes in a lot. This is, you know, a picture of getting injured, you know, just a neck, you know, the neck bones just exploding into pieces, basically. This is also a lock-up kind of situation, or like a little how do you say, like a little image of what my, you know, the way I do my makeup, and the way I try to intimidate my opponents. And this is always a symbol for winning. It says win on there, just a trophy you receive, which is something that happened a lot in Japan. You would get these huge trophies when you win something, and then little messages in between. What does this say? Sacrifice, sacrifice all day long. So.
And which is what you do, and your art is your art. Your art in the ring is your art, and your art here's your art. And Thekla, tell me, making an observation, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in your art. Is that how you are too? There's a lot going on. Your mind is always working, always going.
For sure. As well, when we're looking at Lee's work, it's so calm.
It's calm and passive.
Beautiful, you know, and
that's what I want to get to. We'll get that to Lee's.
Yeah, like grounded, and mine is always all over the place and chaotic and in the air and really, really aggressive. So that's. I remember this was the last painting of that series that I was painting, and it was I gave it to the gallery, I think 5 hours before we opened the show, and so this part I remember that was a mental breakdown. That was just like, I can't finish it. You know, it's just like, but that's how I work, you know. And then it became, in my opinion, also maybe the best piece of that, because I finally, you know, in those end states of finishing up the work for an exhibition, I finally actually opened up, you know. While everything before was more very calculated, that one was just like, just very personal, you know. So I'm very fond of this one, actually, even though it was a disaster trying to get it out of my hands.
It's something, because, and we'll go back to this when we finish up your section. I'm going to go back to Lee, because you're talking about, Lee, we're going to talk about just how things are precise in your works, where Techla is like just, that must be maybe harder to finish yours, because you're, so many things are going on. Where Lee, you have a vision, and as you see, like in some of these, it's just, my gosh. Well, you both are excellent, please. This is just, if you look at this one and just the intricate detail that Lee puts into this, it's just awesome. And it's something, because Lee, I'm looking at the luchadors, not as pro wrestlers, but as real people.
Them to be seen as people, and we have lives outside of professional wrestling. we're still these larger than life characters when we're on the screen and things like that, but we have these other parts of us that balance us out. But like, you know, stuff like the small detail of the bag and the ball and the net and stuff, it's never intentional. I don't try to like lock myself in and be precise, but I just think if it adds to it, I'll put it in there, and it's fun for me to like just, it's calming. Like Thekla, she was very erratic with how she was saying, but I actually really enjoy it because it reminds me of like street art, especially this one. How this is like you see the stickers and the combinations of cultures and art. That's what that reminds me of, and the ocean and those things. But that's also the balance. You have this, and then you have that. So I think hard stuff together is really cool.
Yin and yang. And you know, when you mentioned the detail, look at this. I'm also going to do this. Shadows. Yes, no, it's amazing. Look here. And the birds too. So you see in the sky the shadows, and then you're seeing here. And like you said, it's not something that you're really planning, but then as you're painting, it just comes about that way for you?
Yeah, pretty much. Like usually when I think about a painting, I just think of the subject, and then I think of the background, and then as I'm painting, I was like, there needs to be something up here, so then I'll add the birds, or there needs to be something down here, so I'll add the bag. It's just, I go with the flow of it. Like Bruce Lee be water. That's what it is with my art.
Bruce Lee, the karate master. Yes.
Composition, though, you're very good at composition, I think. You know, it's also very clear, but that little detail there balances the painting out, and you do it in every painting, actually, when you look at it. It's just very pleasing to the eye.
How fun is it too, Lee, I'll ask, how fun is it sharing a spotlight like this with art with also another pro wrestler who's an artist?
It's very fun. It actually makes it more comfortable for me, like not being from the art world necessarily. So it's something, it's someone that I'm familiar with in both things in professional wrestling and art, and like I got to know her through her art and her wrestling and stardom and stuff like that. So it's cool to be able to work with her in both worlds.
I think it's really cool because we knew of each other while actually living on two sides of the globe, right? I was still living in Japan and you were here in the States, you know. And I always thought that I was the only one doing, you know, like doing art or trying to immerse myself in the art world while being a pro wrestler, actually. But then I saw Lee is doing it too, and he's doing it so well. So now we're working in the same company, and I think that's really cool, actually. And especially because our work is so different, but also so good, you know. So it's like it's really cool to finally be sharing this space with you.
The great Adam, who helped put all this together, this event, the Perez Art Museum Miami, which you guys just had a big talk there for Getting the Game, which is an all art, sports, cultural event. And we just had art and wrestling, which was a discussion, which was really cool. And you got that. And now tonight, it's Sunset Flip, which is both of your work. It's your private showcase, so to speak, for the both of you. So we're looking for good attendance and a great reaction from that. I know you mentioned from NADA, if I'm not mistaken, you had a good response from there. We're able to sell some works even. And what is that like for an artist to be able to do that as well?
It's exciting and heartbreaking somewhat, because it's exciting the fact that people appreciate your art that much they want to own it, but heartbreaking because you don't have possession of it anymore. You don't get to see it the same way. You can see it in the pictures of their home or wherever it's at, but you don't get to live with it in the same way. Is it like that for you?
Somewhat, I think. I don't know. So for me, when you look at them, they're so chaotic, and as I said before, they're heartbreaking to make for me sometimes. So I do you know, have a relationship with all of them, and some of them are harder to let go, and others I'm just like, you were a piece of shit to work with. Just get out. No, I love them all, but some of them really try to kill me.
And you, as you mentioned, you've done art shows in Japan. What is that like? How is this your first art show then in the States, in America, or no?
I had a booth with Adam at NADA, New York, at 2025. So that was my first showing in the States, and this is my second showing.
What has that been like, though? Is there a difference? I would say there's a difference in pro wrestling between American wrestling and Japanese wrestling, and I'm just curious if there's a difference in the response from people with the art there and here.
I think art touches people in a very similar way, actually. So it was great. It's really cool to have people in Japan come to the shows, and it was such a cool mix of some of my punk friends with mohawks, and then politicians when it was at the embassy, and then you had actual wrestling fans just trying to get in touch with you. So it was always a cool blend of people. America this is only my second time, so I'm really excited to see what this is going to be like.
And also we have a big event that's going to be coming up where it's going to be really focused on pro wrestling art. And it's called House Show. And it's going to be on the west coast of Florida near Tampa in St. Petersburg. You know, Adam's big and involved in that too, and both of you are showcasing there as well. What can you tell me at all about House Show and how it might be a little different? Because here we're doing all different sports.
Yeah, I think right now you're seeing things on a scale that's much more intimate. And then in the fall of 2027, you're going to see everything in a much bigger setting because it's a museum and it's a combination of not just Thekla and I's work, but artists from all over the world that's representing professional wrestling specifically.
And I think they have a lot of activities and events planned around that too, so it's going to be really interesting. A lot of people participating. It's not only around us, but I already had talks with them. They're planning big educational things too. So it's going to be really cool, and especially knowing that Adam, just the way he did this now with all the talks and really being able to connect people from so many different disciplines. I'm really looking forward to the museum show as well.
It's curious too, because like today when I'm listening to both of you speak the art and wrestling, that discussion that you all had, you had a few wrestling fans in the audience, but most of them were art people in the business or art fans.
Yeah.
So how do you just balance that when you're talking to everybody? Like, okay, wait a minute, I'm not in front of a pro wrestling crowd now, and let me talk about my art and sort of speak generically too about pro wrestling, because you could say something like lucha, and that would go over a non-wrestling person's go over them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I try to talk or speak too differently, just because I think with the internet, stuff is much more understood and universal, even if you don't have like the exact detail or definition of what something is. You've heard it enough to know what it is. And I also believe that they kind of blend. That's what the whole thing is with Game Time, blending sports and art. So it already is kind of blended together, and people understand that. And even if like they don't know something, they'll hear something I say, and then bam, now they can go look that up and understand it.
I think I try to not use too much terminology that might go over like normal people's heads, but also I think people who come to a talk that is so specific as what we were talking about today, I think people probably have a little bit of an understanding what kayfabe means, for example.
Yeah.
There's also like being protective of what wrestling is and not saying too much.
Which I don't like, when Adam today was like, which is selling, it's like, yeah, but we're still magicians and you're telling everybody how the trick works,
Yeah,
which I don't love personally.
Pulling back the curtain, yes, it's like you don't ask a magician how they do the trick.
That's my first coach ever always said that, if somebody asks you stupid questions, just say that, well, would you ask that a magician, so like how the trick works? Like, no, you wouldn't. And I agree with that still to this day, but I mean, we gotta do what we gotta do to a certain extent. Yeah,
it's a different time frame too, much different. 10, 20, even go back in my day, 30, 40 years ago, it's changed a lot. Well, okay, we're gonna wrap this up. I just wanna thank both of them. They're both champions in the ring, and they're champions in their art, and they're champion people, and that's, I think, most important. They'd be able to do this and showcase and do this with us. I'm gonna end it with a couple questions. First, it will be, you are the Ring of Honor Pure Champion.
That's right.
Ring of Honor part of AEW. Just what is it like professionally, being a part of AEW and being a Ring of Honor Pure Champion?
I enjoyed it a lot because it's a place where I get to be around a lot of people that are extremely different from me and that I can learn from. There's so many different styles and no one comes here necessarily changing their styles. So I've trained with luchadors and I've gotten better at lucha libre. I've trained with Japanese wrestlers like Shibata-san and I've learned things from him that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. So it's great in that way, but also AEW Ring of Honor allowed me to be myself and be as creative as possible and support things like this outside of what they do.
And AEW Women's Champion, you came in this company and you took over. That's what Techla does. What is it like, too, for you? Just wearing that championship, that is one of the top two, the men's title, the women's title. You both are on the championship level. So what is it like?
It's been great, really. I think AEW is such a perfect place for me after being in Japan for such a long time, but also being from Europe and having that DIY background from over there, you know. So I think I like to see AEW still as the underdog and the punk, you know, and like alternative kid, you know what I mean? Like we're just so much more into whatever we want to be into without thinking, you know, what is gonna be appealing to the masses and stuff like that. I think it's so much more for people who are into art and design and trying to put something new on the table. So I'm really happy to be part of that and represent that in the highest way possible.
You both represent it extremely high and extremely well. And I'll just wrap it up to this. If anyone wants to check out their work, Sunset Flip. It's in the Miami Design District, 140 Northeast 39th Street, Suite 203. And their work's going to be here for a few weeks, so you could still come down and check it out. Plus, at the Perez Art Museum in Miami, PAM, P-A-M-M, where they have Get in the Game going on right now, which you guys spoke at today, and also Lee has some of his work there, I believe, also. You could check that out. Get in the Game will be there. And then they have the big event will be coming up in 2027 house show in St. Petersburg. Just awesome display of art. Thank you so much for both of your time. All the best to both of you.